all family, but the way Lillian treated me, I feel like I'm part of the family. So I'm grateful to be here, I'm not really preaching, so I've got a few words to say, but it's mostly about if you have some things that you want to say, and I'll give you the opportunity to do that in a few minutes. I would like to ask you, though, when you come to, or if you have some things to say, to please come up here, because it's being recorded, and I think it'd be important for the family to see. I know it's a little bit uncomfortable if you're not comfortable about speaking, but if you don't mind coming up here, I'd appreciate it. So I'm just gonna have a word of prayer to start out here, and after that, I'm just gonna ask if some of the family would like to come up and say a few words about Lillian today. So let's go to the Lord in prayer. So I'm just gonna open the floor here. If some people want to come up and say a few words about Lillian, now is the time.
I want to go first because I think yours is better.
So I'll speak at once.
Yeah.
I wrote some words. So I wrote a lot of speeches last night, and there's so many things that I would love to say for Grandma. But then I remember this is a private little funeral, so we all know how amazing she truly was and how much she meant to each and every one of us. Before hospice was called in, the doctors had told Grandma that she needed to stay with someone or she would have to be in the hospital because she wasn't eating enough or drinking. So she went to Nana, and Nana took wonderful care of her. One day when my mom, Jenna, and I, and Dad were over at Nana's, Grandma kept saying she already had eaten. But she didn't. She would have to go, and then we ended up telling her, we're like, Grandma, if you don't eat, you're going to have to go to the hospital. Well, she said, well, we don't want that. So she started shoveling the food into her mouth. It was just the precious thing. She said, I'm not going there. And then another day, we were sitting there, and she's trying to eat. We're trying to get her. She took a bite. She says, I'm full. She's like, I don't want to eat anymore. And we're like, well, Grandma, you got to take one more bite. And I'm like, you remember when you told us you have to take one more bite, which turned into more bites, which turned into us eating all the food. Everything was gone on our plate. So that's what we tried to do to her. Well, she ended up being like, well, I do remember that, but I guess what goes around comes around. I'm so sorry I ever said that to you. Just so, because she did not want to eat her food because she already thought she ate. Well, we were sitting there on the couch with her, and I was sitting there, and she would fall asleep just sitting up. And I noticed how she was sewing in her sleep. She said all her life she continued doing it even when she wasn't really sewing. She was doing it in her dreams, and we saw her feet just pedaling. And she was tapping her foot, and I was like, what is she doing? And it took me a minute to realize she was on the pedal. And then you saw her hands guiding the fabric through there. And then one time, she took her hand, and you would see her just pulling it up and going like this. And you could tell she was threading the needle. She would play with her gown, she would play with the pillows, just sewing them in her sleep. And sometimes she would wake up like, well, where's my needle? But we're like, oh, it's in another room, just playing along. Well, on July 25th, after hospice was called, my mom, Dad, Jenna, and I brought everyone McDonald's and cookout. We got Grandma a Happy Meal, and I sat beside Grandma's bed, and we ate together. And she said that we were having a tea party, because we were all drinking tea. Then she gave Nana her McDonald's tea and said that she needed to join in the tea party. So we sat there eating, and then all of a sudden, I look in her Happy Meal, and there was this Roadrunner. So I was telling her that when we were at Grandma's house, you see, me and my sister, we stayed with Grandma every day after school. Jenna got to spend the longest with her because she was there with Grandma from 6 months old, I believe, to 8th grade. And they truly have a special bond. Well, we started telling Grandma about the Roadrunner and telling her, this is what we used to watch. And then I showed her a video, and she said, no, I kind of remember watching that with y'all. And then Nana says, Grandma, you don't know what the Roadrunner makes? And she says, beep, beep. And then, so later on, we started taking pictures because I wanted to remember the time of, like, this time. She's happy, and even though she's weak and she's not feeling her best, she still has the best spirit. And her spirit's still there, and she's laughing, and she's making faces. We were all making faces together, holding up peace signs. It was one of the best days, even if some people might think it's the worst. And then she said, when we were done, she said, beep, beep, and she kept saying, beep, beep. And we ended up taking video because it was just so precious to me. And the next day, I got a video from Nana, and Grandma said, beep, beep this morning, Kylie, we love you and hope you have a great day. And also later that night, I sent the pictures to Patsy, and Patsy loved them, and she said, y'all rock. So I got Grandma to say, rock on! Shaking her fingers and send it to Patsy. And Nana's like, you can just make Grandma do anything, can't you? Because about 3 years ago, it was Thanksgiving, and we got to do a video. Well, I took a bunch of pictures because all the cupcakes we had were Disney Frozen, the plastic rings. And we took a bunch of pictures because I got Grandma to put them on. And we were like, oh, look at my rings, you know, just playing around, because I knew that she was upset. She was sad some days because she lived alone. And every time I had with her, I just wanted to make her happy. And then the next day, on August 6th, we went back over there, and we ended up wearing all pink, coincidentally. Yeah. And, you know, I was thinking, my favorite color is pink. Grandma looks beautiful in pink. And then I was thinking back to Mean Girls, and I'm like, well, they wear pink on Wednesdays, but we wear pink on Mondays. And I was telling Grandma that, and me, Nana, and Jenna, and Grandma wore pink, and we took some pictures being like, oh, we're in the Mean Girls, you know. And then Sunday, well, actually, hang on. I think that same day, or a few days later, we went in there, and it was after Grandma was put on oxygen, and I believe that was August 4th. And she was still kind of awake. She kind of would talk just a few times, and I would go in there talking to her. She wouldn't always wake up, but she did. She drank a little bit of water for me, but not much. And the last thing she said to me was that she loved me, and she was saying how proud she is of all of her family. She said how much she loves her family, and no money on earth could buy the happiness her family gives her. And she says she's just proud of each and every one of us. Sunday, August 8th, Nana, Papa, Grandma, Jason, Joseph, Ashley, Maddox, Hudson, Sawyer, Mom, and Dad, and Jenna, we all gathered at Nana's house because that was the last Sunday we would have with Jenna because she was about to move to college. And we all got to visit Grandma that day and just sit with her. And Ashley, we were all in the room one time, and Ashley, if you can't tell already, she's pregnant. But I was telling Grandma that, and I walked Ashley over to her bedside. I put her hand on her belly, Grandma's hand on Ashley's belly, and the baby kicked for her. And then also, the day after she was put on oxygen, the next day I went over, and it really broke my heart to see her like that. Because I looked at her and I noticed that's not really my grandmother. Because her eyes, there was no life in them, and I knew that right then we didn't have much time. I never had to experience this before, and it's really hard. Then Friday I went to work, couldn't stay there but an hour, had to come home because I was so upset. That was the first time that I really, really cried, and I broke down in tears because I knew what was going to happen. But Friday, I came home. I went to see Mom for comfort. Then I went, as soon as I found out if Nana and Papa were awake, I went over to their house, and I sat beside Grandma. And I told her that it was okay. It's okay for her to go. I said, I know Jesus is coming for you soon, and it's okay, and we're all going to be okay. And I told her that I can imagine her being up there in heaven with the biggest wings, sewing everyone's robes, especially Jesus's robes, running around with the kids, beeping all around. And I can see her going up to Nana Sherry, which is my mom's mother, who passed away with breast cancer when I think you were 20 or close, 22. Yeah, she was 22 years old. She was my age when she lost her mother. And I can just imagine her mother coming up to Grandma and thanking her so much for all she's done for Mom. And saying that you really stepped up, you stepped in with Nana to be another mother to her. And you've taught her so many things. And I know how Mom appreciates what you've done and what Grandma's done. So, and I'm so proud of, I just want to say this, I'm so proud of Jenna, because I know Grandma, and I know Grandma was too. You stayed strong, and even though you didn't want to leave Grandma, you did, because Grandma wanted you to go to school. And I believe that Grandma left the same day Jenna did, because she wanted to make sure that her peanut was okay. Nana, I can't say thank you enough for being the perfect caregiver for Grandma. I know it wasn't easy, because I even tried helping you change her, and that was not easy at all. But I just want to say thank you, and I know everyone in this room meant so much to Grandma, and I know everyone Grandma meant so much to as well. And I just want to say thank y'all. And